Chris Williams. How are you?
Hi, Avelli. How are you, buddy?
It must be Sheena time.
It certainly must be. Why else would I be up this early on a Saturday morning?
And worth it. It's worth it.
Worth every loss of sleep.
Yeah, I could have used a little bit more sleep. I had a late night, went to see a comedy show. I must say, comedians are now becoming drag queens. They are starting extremely late.
Uh-oh. They're trying to catch on the trend?
Yeah, it was horrific. A 9:30 show didn't start till almost 11.
Wow.
So it went really long.
Yeah.
So how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Busy. We have a full harvest coming up with my work. So we have a farm, and the agency is putting on their first fall harvest for the community. So that's been a lot of work by a lot of people. Looking forward to that. That's next weekend. And then I'll be doing a little Christmas song on John Jesus Christmas concert, December 1st at the Green Room in New York City. Looking forward to that.
That's really nice. I love the Green Room.
Oh yeah. Have you played there?
Yeah, no, I have not. No. It's a big room, right?
One of the few places you haven't played.
But I think the reason why is I don't think they have projection.
Ah, okay.
And I think, but it's a beautiful room. I love that room.
So what are you up to? I've been seeing a lot of performance dates.
Yeah, we're going to Baltimore. Baltimore this weekend. We're doing 3 nights, 50 Shades of Gay. We're going to be at a theater called Le Mundo, Friday the 29th, Saturday the 30th, and Sunday we're doing a matinee. So this has to be up and ready by an early date. I don't know, but we'll do our best.
Yeah, you're going to have a lot of pressure. There's the Sheena fans are in full force with this release.
Oh God, it's going to be great. I'm so excited. I really can't even tell you. But before we even get into our guest, we're going to just say our show is sponsored by Uberlube. Yes, Uberlube, uberlube.com. You can get all their fabulous products. Shout out, they came out in droves to the Chicago show. They were ready to party and have a good time, so we're grateful that they were there. Had a blast.
Nice.
And if you have any questions, in the future, you want advice from, any of the doctors on this show, you can hit us up at ikeavellievents@hotmail.com or send us a DM at facebook.com Loose Lips the podcast. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you're going to catch this show on video, and then you can listen to this. I believe it's going to be released tonight or tomorrow on all the audio platforms.
That's awesome. And I love you and Tim have been killing your podcast. You're just getting better and better. So keep it up.
Well, we're going to talk with Adam when he comes on too, because we have some old school artists, like one-hit wonders that are from the 80s that are going to be coming on too. So we're excited for that. But speaking of Adam.
Yes, our guest today is returning for the 7th time to discuss the 9th release of the Cherry Red RT Industries Sheena Easton reissue campaign, the vinyl and CD DVD of 1982's classic Madness, Money, and Music.
I know. I'm so excited. Yes. But we must not forget, outside of Sheena, Adam has interviewed the cream of the crop, like Mariah Carey, Diana Ross, Prince, Janet Jackson, Liza Minnelli, and Ike Avelli. And if he hasn't, we wonder why, among many others, and has major projects under his belt.
You don't have to talk about what's under his belt, Ike. Please welcome the incredible Adam Mattera.
Hello. Thanks for having me back again.
Hi, Adam. We have to tell you, it's exciting to have you back again. You are like up here. We have nobody that's even going to catch up to you as returning guests on Loose Lips. That's for sure.
Thank you.
But I have to tell you, got my vinyl copy.
Yeah, it just came out yesterday. It just came out yesterday, yeah.
And I haven't opened it.
Oh, and you've got the CD, DVD, and the vinyl.
Fantastic. Yes, and I'm opening it now.
Ooh.
and I
Here
cannot
it
wait.
is. Here's the unwrapping, the unveiling.
Oh, this is exactly how I remember.
That side is, yeah.
Yes. Look at that.
Oh my
Look
God.
at that.
Isn't that a great shot?
Yeah, it is.
Amazing.
I
That was
almost
really
feel
good.
like that even though I was saying to Ike, even though that's still not a representation, I think, of the album, I think it's a better album cover.
Far better album cover, yeah.
Oh, I agree.
Isn't that a great shot? Yeah, it's fantastic.
You know, they might have even thought it was too similar to the first album, just with a hat.
Maybe, but they on those first two albums, it was kind of
very similar. Yeah,
consistency. Right? It might have been quite nice for the three of them to have that consistency.
Right,
right. Especially since they were all Chris Neal, right?
Yeah, exactly. The last one of the three.
I'm telling you, Adam, exceptional. The color, the quality. My God, you really bring it back to life.
So this is the inside booklet of the CD, and I was telling Ike that, Adam, your writing on the behind the scenes of this particular CD was the best so far.
Oh, really? Oh, thank you.
I mean, it's just amazing how much information you got from Chris Neal and the writers, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But if anyone, I was even thinking, Adam, when this is all said and done, you could actually compile all of these liner notes together into a book.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, yeah, possibly.
It really is such an interesting read, just for pop fans in general. You don't even have to be a Sheena Easton fan. Just to hear the process, the creative process, it's pretty cool.
Can you actually go back to that booklet and go to the back cover picture that was on the original album?
Yes.
Because we have a ton of questions, Adam, which is amazing. The back cover. Yep. That's not the back cover, I don't think.
Oh no, that's the inner, right?
Yeah.
That picture that you showed that was the inner sleeve of the American version.
Correct.
Whereas the other side, the front and back, were the inner sleeve of the British and European version.
Yes, and I love all the extra pictures.
The other way around. Yeah, that.
No, I think it's
that was the inner sleeve of the European version.
Correct. Yes, but then open up to the one that was from the American version, the back cover of the album. Keep going.
Oh, with the here it is.
So there's a question from Kai from Santa Rosa, California. He says, "Can you shed light on the back cover? Doesn't seem to make any sense or relate to the music in any way. Was there a reason or a study group from EMI that determined they needed a picture of livestock with Sheena to help push sales in the rural areas?"
Well, I did try and track down the donkey, but unfortunately, his press people, he wasn't available. He's huge in Israel, apparently.
I actually do remember Sheena talking about this in an interview, and it really was just they were on the beach. Brian Aris, I think, took that photo.
Yeah, Brian Aris did all those.
And there was a donkey on the beach, and they actually just went over and got the donkey and took pictures with it. That was it.
Isn't that the way? Yeah, I assume that shot. I don't know for sure, but I assume that shoot was done in Montserrat, where they recorded. The album.
Yes, I believe that's correct.
It was a debut album as well, and this one. It looks like that, doesn't it? So there's a whole bunch of shots which are all that they used to use around with the hat pictures. That I think Billboard or one of them called it the girl from Ipanema.
Yes, that's right.
There's some other ones where she's like on a bamboo chair. There's a whole bunch of stuff.
There were actually some very beautiful, sexy pictures for her, especially at that time, that I thought would have been better. Again, better for a lot where she's in the water facing back. There's some of those pictures.
Are You Man Enough cover photo?
The one that was used to cover Man Enough. Yeah, with the sign of animal print.
Yes.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I don't know what the logic was behind the choice of the album shot, really, or the design either, because it's kind of that kind of like inset.
Right.
I don't know. It doesn't quite. To me, she always looks a little bit awkward on the cover. That kind of looking off to one side. It looks a little bit. But whatever. I mean, I think it's the best album, and we talked about this before. I think weighing it all up, I think it's the best album. To be honest.
Number one on my list for sure. Just so eclectic, and then of course, well, before we even get to the tracks that are on there, tell us how you found the songs, how they all came about, especially the unreleased tracks, which are golden.
Well, I mean, that was what was really pleasing about this one, because it's relatively, I mean, finding the album material, tracking down the masters for the albums isn't hard.
Right.
Isn't particularly hard. It's the unreleased stuff that has been fallen through the cracks and stuff. There's 2 songs that no one's ever heard until now on here. One is called Woman, and one's called The Lonely Stay Alone. And the song, and often what happens is when you're looking at this vault, so basically there's vaults in America and there's vaults in the UK. There may be, I don't think there's any else across the world that I'm unaware of. It seems unlikely because that's where she recorded those, for those 2 countries. And I was looking through all the American log, so everything is logged, and there are thousands of entries. So a song like Mon Girl, there'll be about 50 entries for that. Wow. For different tapes it's on, for the master, the 2-inch master, the 1/4-inch mix down, the this or that, and there'll be multiple copies. And often a song can be titled differently. For example, when I was doing A Private Heaven, the song Hungry Eyes also appeared as Dark Sunglasses and Chinatown. Different names, so working titles. Oh, sometimes people they can't be bothered to write the whole title on the box, so I'll just put Wind. Yeah. Because they can't be able to put, So I'm looking through all these things. There was just one. There wasn't any duplicates. There was just one thing. It just said Woman on it. And I was like, what is that? It must be One Man Woman.
Ah, right.
It must have just mistitled it. But it might not be. But then the date of it didn't correspond to that. So I thought, well, why would there be this one thing? It's quite an expensive process to get something transferred because these tapes are very old. They have to be baked. And so on. It's expensive, takes time. So you can't just say, "Oh, just bake everything and charge us $100,000. It'd be fine." It's not going to happen. So you have to be quite specific. So this one, I thought, okay, there's something here. So I got them to, in America, I asked them to photograph the actual covers of the box, the physical box. And you can see it on the inlay of the, they're reproduced on the inlay of the CD thing, actually.
Yes.
And so you can see that under one of them, it has the original box, and which is here. And
yes,
and what you can't see very well there, though, it says Woman, and there are also 2 titles that have been crossed out. And the 2 titles that are crossed out are tracks from the Manners, Money and Music session. I can't read them right now because my glasses on. But it was like, okay, well then this tape obviously was done in 1982. It was obviously recorded during the sessions of Manners, Money and Music. I got them to transfer it. Turns out it's a completely different song. So a completely new song that, well, not new, but a completely unheard, unreleased song. Completely forgotten. When I played it to Chris Neal, he had forgotten about it. The songwriter, Sue Quinn, who's the same woman that wrote Isn't It So on the previous album, and Weekend in Paris on this album. I got in touch with her, and she remembered the song when they gave them the demo of Weekend in Paris went to Chris Neal and Sheena. At the end of that demo, there was also this song Woman, which Sheena did like. But as far as she'd heard the feedback that she also really likes the song Woman, but she never heard back about it and never assumed they never recorded it. But they did record it. So they recorded this song Woman. It's got these amazing layered background vocals on it, which are Sheena and Chris and this singer called Sharon. I think she's called Sharon Campbell. I forget. Yeah, but she was one of the backing singers on the debut album as well. And it's fantastic. I real find that one. It's amazing. The quality of it is so good. You kind of think, why on earth was this shelved?
Well, that's what I was just gonna. We have two questions about this song, so I'll just jump in with the questions from Sheena fans. One is from Anthony from Australia, and he said he was curious how come "Woman" was not available on Sheena's Madness, Money, and Music original album. Did Chris ever specify like what the process of why they picked some songs for the albums, and particularly why this one was left off?
Yeah, I mean, we did talk about that, and he couldn't specifically remember because after it's 41 years ago now.
Yeah.
To the day almost that it was released.
Right. Yeah.
Released in September 1982, so it's that's a long time.
Yeah.
So, but I think when we talked about it, the probable there were too many ballads for the album. They already had a lot of ballads. There were another ballad, and they had good ballads. Do you know what I mean? We'll talk about it later on. But "Wind Beneath My Wings," "In the Winter," "I Wouldn't Beg for Water." I mean, there's so many great stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, what song would you kick off to put it on? I think that was the issue. Could have been a B-side, I suppose, but they also had some great B-sides that are all on here. So it just fell by the wayside. And I guess by the time it came to the next album, Sheena had totally moved on. She was working with producers in America, so that it was something from the past and it was forgotten.
Yeah.
It just fell by the wayside. But there you go.
And the other question was from Andy Dremen in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He said all of the Christopher Neal era tracks seem to have the same style of background vocals, being dominantly male voices backing Sheena up. But on the newly discovered track "Woman," background vocals are either Sheena herself or solely female voices, which I believe was a first. Does Adam have any insight into the change? Was he able to tell when in the timeline that "Woman" was recorded compared to all the other tracks in the album? And was it maybe something that was going to be saved for a fourth Christopher Neal album that would be going on for a different sound? I love the track, but it sounds like an outlier based on the background vocals alone.
Oh, interesting. Well, we did talk about the background vocals, and like I just said, that this artist named Sharon Campbell was on there, on the backgrounds. She'd also been on backgrounds before those. It wasn't always exclusively male, but you're absolutely right. There was that male sound. And I can't remember what they called them. Chris did tell me they had a funny name for them, for the background singers. A funny name they made up. It escapes me. But yeah, that was a sound they had. And Chris Neal was often one of those singers. And I can't remember Alan someone.
Carvel.
Alan Carvel, that's right. Yeah. But there were female vocalists, female backgrounds as well. And when she toured live, there was a woman whose name I forget that sung, was a lead singer of Shack Attack. Jackie. Yeah.
Del Shannon or something? Was it?
No, you're thinking of Jackie DeShannon, I think.
It was Jackie something, right?
There was definitely one female backing vocalist on the live tour that era, and this girl Sharon who sang on the records as well. But no, I don't think it was a different session thing. It wasn't. It was all part of the same sessions. I guess it was just a sound they wanted to go for, and so Chris got Sharon in to do the backgrounds with him. Was it held back for another album? No, because I'm pretty sure at the time, speaking to Chris, when they were doing their last album together, he spoke about there being a fee. I don't think they knew 100% for sure. He didn't know, like, it wasn't, they didn't go into it thinking it's the last album together.
Right.
But there was a feeling of things.
Change was in the air.
Yeah.
Exactly. But Woman was greatly produced. I mean, my God, that the vocals were incredible, and the lyrics literally told a story, which I loved. And I think at that time, because Bernadette Peters had a song out at one time called "Other Lady."
Oh, I love that song.
Yeah, me too. Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, what a great album as well.
Yeah. 100%. Love that one. And it kind of gave me that vibe. It's telling a story about another woman, and then The Lonely Stay Alone. Now, I kind of felt that maybe the album was going to go in a different direction when it first came out, because there were a lot of great rock anthems like Madness, Money, and Music. This track, which was omitted, Weekend in Paris. There were so many great Madness, Money, and Music. They were great. Very hard rock. I was wondering if she was going to go that way.
I don't think so. No, I mean, because when I don't think they thought of it that way. Speaking to Chris about the selection of songs, it was more they were trying to cover all the bases. They were doing a bit of everything. So it wasn't like they conceived a rock album and then changed their mind. I think they were just didn't really think of it that way. I know there was an awareness of the American market, which by that stage had become a thing. You know, her British market was diminishing. It felt like people were losing interest, and then it was all building in America. And so songs like "There When I Needed You," which has that very sort of AOR, almost like Doobie Brothers kind of.
Yeah, like a mix of like rock and R&B. Yeah,
it's fantastic. Written by Steve Kipner, who wrote
and I believe Ray Parker Jr.
Yes, that's right. He co-wrote on it, didn't he? Yeah. That's a great song. I mean,
it was.
And then "You Do It," which is the Deborah Allen song, which is like a country song, really, although it's not produced like a country song. So there were certain songs that were very American sounding. There were other songs that were the big ballads, which was obviously a mainstay of her appeal, and she was building an audience at adult contemporary radio. And so a song like "I Wouldn't Beg for Water" totally worked for that. Songs like "Machinery," which was trying to be a new wave, very of the moment sound. All these different things going on at once. So I don't think it was planned in any one thing and then swerved. I think it just was, let's just do everything and throw it all at the wall.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you had to pick one song to omit and then one to add in from the unreleased tracks, which would it be?
No. Well, I mean, there is that. I think that's a problem. Definitely the song to add in would the better of the two songs, in my opinion, is "Woman." I do think "The Lonely Stay Alone" is a good song. It's nice hearing in that. To me, that sounds more like it could have been a B-side.
Right.
Not that it's not bad. It's not bad. It is written by Phil Palmer, who was a guitarist. Who also wrote a song called "Right or Wrong," which was another B-side. Very much in a similar mode. It's very mid-tempo, sort of soft rocky. It's nice. I don't think it is. I don't think it's better than any. Whereas "Woman," what song would go? I mean, what song?
I have my own.
What's your
I would have omitted either "Are You Man Enough?"
I was gonna say maybe "Are You Man Enough?"
or "In the Winter," and probably because I just feel it would have fit the album better. I like "In the Winter," but I just feel like, I think you hit a good point, Adam, with this album. Like, to me, I always say this is like for me, the first Sheena Easton album, in the sense of she became a fully formed artist with this album. And you talked about it in your liner notes that Chris Neal was aware that now he was almost like just the producer in the sense, whereas the first two albums, his role was really to sift through songs. And now he was saying she was bringing songs to me, like she was, picking and good songs. Right. And I think they really just picked the best songs that they liked and produced them in a way that it was cohesive. But, also the vocals were right up front, which I think was became a trademark of Sheena Easton albums, where the production wasn't overwhelming the vocal. The vocal was always front and center, and more so than on the first two albums. The first two albums are good, but they're an artist and a producer trying to figure out who this artist is. And I think the third album, you really got a sense of who she was and what she liked. And that's why, as Ike was saying, there's this unique balance of like adult contemporary style pop music with ballads, and then these rockers that really, I think she really loved to do. And also I think they kept in mind that she was going to be doing her first world tour. And they needed some energy in that in those songs as well. Absolutely. So I think that played a factor. But yeah, I would have done a few things different. It's always hindsight, but I wouldn't have released "Machinery" as a single. I think that he was right. Chris Neal, he said it was very British and very new wave, and they weren't ready for a Sheena Easton new wave single. And I think they should have started with "There When I Needed You" as the first single. I would have went with that. Then I would have went with "I Wouldn't Beg for Water," and then I would have went with "You Do It." And I think that would have been a much better U.S. single strategy. I'm not sure that anything would have worked in the UK at this point, but
I would have personally omitted "Machinery" and opened with "The Lonely Stay Alone," as you know, because it was very like energetic. And then the second side would have been Madness, Money, and Music here, right? And then that's another big hard rocker. But I don't think Machinery, for me personally, didn't fit in with the whole mix.
Well, I think Machinery. Yeah, I agree. Machinery does not fit in. Yeah. I don't think there's any way it doesn't. It sounds completely different from everything else on the album, and it's a one-off.
Yeah.
And when in the line notes that you just alluded to, Chris, we talked about with Chris, it was kind of like when they did it, they made it as a kind of, well, he said it was almost like a tongue-in-cheek, like a parody almost. They were doing. They were, let's try and do this crazy new wave track. I think it's really fun. I think it's one of her best.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite singles of her. Does it fit with the album? No. But I think one of the points that Chris discussed Chris Neal talked about in the line notes was it was maybe a step too far for her audience, who people start relating to an artist as a certain thing. She's a girl that sings this like perky pop tunes like 9 to 5 and
I don't even think I think the record company actually went, especially on the American side, went too far with trying to build her as an adult contemporary artist. I mean, after Modern Girl, it was all ballads, and she was on all these talk shows singing mostly ballads. So I think it was a shock to like hear. It became like almost like she's trying too hard, you know. Right. And even though she completely nailed it performance-wise, and I think Chris was right. If it was a new artist, it would have been a hit. I think that, you know, people like to put people in boxes. And so now you hear this song and it's like, what is this? Sheena Easton, she's the ballader, you know, like, and they had a hard time with getting her out of that. I think Telephone was the song that finally started to get people to see that she could do up-tempo songs, you know.
It's interesting because that makes you it really makes you realize how much someone's career is the perception of someone is shaped by those marketing choices, which she had nothing to do. Well, no, I think she had some say, but it certainly wasn't all. It wasn't all chosen by her. So she's recording these songs that are a bit country, songs that are completely rock, and all these things. The public, unless they were listening intently to her albums, which isn't the majority of people, would have no idea that she was doing all these things, you know?
Yeah.
So she becomes perceived as a certain thing when she's not just one thing at all. And this album shows that really well, I think. So it's interesting, although it is, we were saying, you know, arguably her best album, representing her as an artist and the range of what she can do and her vocal showcase, it was her least selling album. It was her lowest selling album of that initial run of her big success from that 10-year period, really, from her debut to What Comes Naturally. This one was the lowest. Well, I don't know about the Spanish album, maybe the Spanish album, but that wasn't released everywhere. But or No Sound But a Heart wasn't released everywhere, so I'm not including those. But in terms of the others, Madness, Money, and Music, it underperformed. I think it was a big album in Japan actually, but everywhere else it didn't really perform that well. And so it's interesting as to why that was. And I think it's a big part of it is exactly what you're talking about. Is she became perceived in a certain way. She had kind of been painted into a corner maybe. They did single releases that didn't really make sense or confused people, like Machinery, or tried to retread like Are You Man Enough, the second British UK single, was felt like a very, I don't mind that song. I think it's a good song. I think it's great live when she did it on the live. But it felt like a safe bet. And they were just like, that's very like we've heard her do that kind of thing before. Let's do it again. But I wouldn't beg for what was a great song and a great.
Oh God, yeah. And I think, like you said, Are You Man Enough? They probably included for her fans that, you know, from the first two albums to include some poppy and a little shticky. But we have a great question from Kay, and I like the little behind the scenes thing sometimes. Like he said, there is an airport sound on the beginning of Weekend in Paris. Was it taped in Paris at the airport? It reminded him of the 1985 song Bon Voyage by Kim Carnes, where they actually had the original sounds from the airport in Paris.
Oh, well, I didn't ask Chris Neal where they taped the airport sound. Annoyingly, now I'm kicking
Adam.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm just gonna rip the thing up and start again. No, I failed. I'm sorry, I failed you. I don't know if it was in Paris. That I don't know. I did ask him about that because it's the opening track of the album. It wasn't in America because it was 2 tracks were cut, edited out, and it was resequenced. But as it's meant to be for the real full length album, it was the opening album. So it opens with this sound, and I think part of that was, when I discussed it with Chris, was that they wanted to give that feel of like she was now an international artist. She was in airports all the time. She was traveling from one capital to another, doing shows, which is part of that Madness Money Music thing and Weekend in Paris. So and the idea of it being a weekend in Paris, it fits in well with the lyric. She's flown over for a weekend in Paris. So that, I think it's a brilliant. When it works, it's a brilliant album opener. But I don't know if it was specifically recorded in Paris. No.
Wouldn't it be funny if it was taped in her backyard?
I could tell you the applause that's captured on Madness, Money, and Music is from a U.S. radio broadcast that she had done. I believe she was opening, and they play the music for A Few Eyes Only, I think, as the opening sequence. And then I think it goes into Prisoner. But when she appears on stage, that burst of audience applause, that it's the same exact. So they must have just edited that from that radio broadcast and put it into the Madness Money. Yeah,
San
so
Diego,
that's an actual what? Say that?
San Diego, wasn't it, that concert?
Yeah, San Diego. That's it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know yes. Oh, I didn't. I mean, I knew it wasn't recorded live, obviously, and it would have been put on to give it that sort of stadium feel. But I didn't know where exactly it had come from. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So that's on the 2 opening tracks on each side. Basically, they had these little kind of extra, audio things going on to give it that a feel. So it was, it was well conceived in that way.
Very young feel, and I do love the Madness Money Music because it did sound, when she starts singing, it did sound like it was a live performance because the production was incredible.
Yeah.
Like a Jim Steinman production almost,
Yeah.
Vocals. Yeah. God, it would have been great if Sheena had recorded with Jim Steinman.
Oh, yeah. That would have been awesome. I do think that she would have. I understand why Chris was saying he felt a change within the air. She was living now, I think, at that point, or at least going to be living in America. She was spending most of her time there. She was hearing more American music. I could understand that, him feeling that way. But I think if the album had been successful, I doubt they would have broken up that pair because I think they liked working with each other.
They definitely liked working together, yeah.
Yeah, I think it just was the combination of the shift in the marketing and her, realizing that maybe that was the end of an era for them, and it was time for her to try a different sound, especially if she was going to be marketing to an American audience, because his productions were rooted in at that time, UK trends.
Yeah, although I do think like songs like There When I Needed You and You Do It, those kind of songs, productions, the more American leaning stuff were very well done and could have worked.
Oh, absolutely.
In the right way. I think there's different things going. Yeah, there's that fact that she was kind of, her career was exploded. It was on a trajectory upwards in America, and it made sense to be there. And she was starting to have relationships there with people and, living there. So there was that element. And the fact that Chris just had to keep flying over. There was a lot of
that was crazy.
With Chris, her producer, and her manager being in one country and her being in a different country, it just became really difficult.
They were meeting in New York just to have meetings.
Yeah, you'd fly over to just have a meeting and play some songs.
Crazy.
They couldn't Skype each other. Do you know what I mean? It was a different.
Right. Yeah, right. Oh my God, that's true.
And the time difference would have been really difficult to deal with and all that sort of stuff. And there was also the fact that music was changing as well. So that when, which is kind of what Machinery was touching on, was there was this whole new wave coming, a different sound. So the kind of sound that she had built on those first couple of albums with Chris, she was in danger of becoming out of fashion,
Yeah.
something from the past, like a different era. Things have to move on. So, and I think that's one of the reasons, perhaps, why this album commercially was a commercial dip, because it almost seemed. I mean, she was only 23.
23, yeah.
23, but she seemed a lot older. On the kind of material she was doing on here, felt like a much older artist. Whereas there was all, Soft Cell, The Human League, all these new wave, new romantic, all that kind of music which was being hammered on the radio, was capturing people's imaginations. She was really not part of that.
And she's in the US most of the time. So she's hearing these aggressive pop sounds by Laura Branigan, Tony Basil. And, I think she smartly was realizing I'm a little, if I'm going to be, this is my market, I have to start to get a sound that's a little more.
Even Olivia Newton-John, she was doing Heart Attack and, Tied Up with a different sound for her as well. And
absolutely. And when you think of the artists that were big that she would have been pitched against, the other female artists, those names, Olivia, Pat Benatar as well, Laura Branigan, these were the people that were having hits. And you can hear at different stages in her career how there was an ear going to this to think, let me do something in that mode.
Right.
She was very much a sort of quite chameleonic, I suppose, in the way that she shaped and shifted over. She was a commercial star. She would do music it wasn't about, she had a mind to what would be played on the radio. How can, that was her thing. And she could do it very well. And she could shift into these different forms really well. And do a big ballad, and do a rock song, and do an electro pop thing like a Telephone. Yeah. Really convincingly. Not a lot of singers can do that.
I think that's why this album, for me, because I almost feel like there's an innocence in the sense of an artist just who had this amazing success going in and making an album they just want to make. I think that's what this album was for me. And that's why it's so good, because it is so diverse and it reflects all the different, she talks about all her different, interests in music, from having, 5 brothers and sisters, or 6 brothers, 5 brothers and sisters, and hearing all these different, and you hear that. The only other album I think that's more reflective of her is Home, which is another. I always alternate between this and Home as my favorite, but
I feel like Madness, Money, and Music is still like top notch. When you're hearing like every different song, and Home was great, but it was like such 2 decades almost already at that point. But the Madness, Money, and Music, like, I'm surprised, Chris, too, you saying you would have omitted In the Winter. It was In the Winter for me that I'm like, oh my God, hearing her interpretation of somebody else's song, and I couldn't wait. And then A Private Heaven was
Love and Affection.
And my God, and I loved it better than Jones. It was just unbelievable.
Well, it shows you the quality of this album, because you're right. I mean, In the Winter would be probably my choice of omission, but wow, like that would be a song that you would omit. That's how good these songs were. This collection of songs is just so strong, and the production and her vocals, and Chris said in the interview with Adam that, Wind Beneath My Wings has been recorded by everyone almost. And his favorite version is still their version. And he said, and that's not because of me, that's because of her vocal. Yeah. It's like she just sang it so great,
Yeah.
I mean, those songs being, you were saying about how it feels like a real personal thing for her. I think that in particular, In the Winter and Wind Beneath My Wings, the ballads on this album are like the heart of the record in a way, and really do reflect her. In the Winter, Janis Ian song, that was one of the first times that she had kind of brought a song to the table, because she loved Janis Ian.
Yeah.
It's a very different approach to Janis Ian's, a completely different. It's a great, amazing version. Janis Ian's versions, I love her version. Sheena brings it into a much more sort of like a dramatic, I mean, I always say Streisand-esque, but you can't help but
Of course,
comparison because of the way she sings it. And it's an incredible showcase for her and what she can do. It's, I mean, and other songs had been like When He Shines and stuff on other albums, isn't it? So, but this takes it slightly different level, I think.
And her interpretation of it. Because back in 1982 was before Madness Money Music even came out, and she started singing the song in concert. And my friend and I looked, we were like, "That's a Janice Ian song," and then we were blown away, and we're wondering if she was going to include it on the album, and when she did, but the live performances,
amazing.
Yeah, you captured that on Live at the Hollywood Palace with just the spotlight on her sitting on the chair with the keyboardist. She also did a version. She covered that recently, like within the last 10 years. She was performing it for a few years during her live set.
Oh, really?
And it was a completely different take. It was so interesting because, you know, the recorded version, I think, captures the heartbreak of that from a younger person's perspective. But when she sang it live, it was like there was like other layers to the performance. It was, you know, a bit of resentment, a bit of bitterness. Like you felt all these different things that only you experience, I think, as you get older. And her voice, you know, was just fuller, you know, and it had a fuller, thicker sound to it. It was, and much more theatrical, if you can believe it or not. It was almost like something from a Broadway play.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's the sign of a real singer who can do that, who can interpret a lyric and really bring it to life and invest it with emotion. You know, there's lots of great pop singers, but they don't necessarily have the ability to do that. It's a particular kind of talent to be able to do that, you know. I mean, oh no, I'm not going to pick someone saying, well, so-and-so couldn't do it, but Sheena can do it.
Yeah. And you know, it would be a great project, you know, from a fan's perspective. Anything, obviously. I always want a Sheena Easton Christmas album, right? But it would be amazing to hear her re-record some of these ballads that have lyrics that really would benefit from having someone who has much more experience now. You know, that she sang them all perfectly, but there was an innocence to some of those performances that make it, you know, very special in of itself. But like, you ever hear Joni Mitchell? She did Both Sides Now, obviously the original, and then she re-recorded it 30 years later with this different voice, and the lyrics just took on a whole different depth. And I always feel like the songs that Sheena recorded that she gravitated to were so emotional, the lyrics, that it would be interesting to hear her take on them now, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait for Machinery 2020. Maybe not that one.
Yeah, we'll leave that one. Yeah.
That's actually, I would love to hear her sing Both Sides Now. That should have been on Home.
Oh yeah, that would have been great.
Well, she hasn't done it. Well, she has done a Joni Mitchell. Of course, she has. She did Raised on Robbery. Raised on Robbery.
Yeah.
She did. She never recorded it. We never did a studio version. Yeah, because she loves that. So she loves those 70s female, you know, Janice Ian, Joan Trading. She loves that stuff.
Even that. See, if I win the Mega Million, I'm gonna pay for all these projects to get done by her.
Do it.
I'm going to do a singer-songwriter 70s covers album.
Wouldn't that be great?
That's a brilliant idea, yeah.
And I suppose Ricky Martin will be knocking on my door too, Chris, right?
That's right, just for you. Wrapped in red ribbons.
Before we move on from Wind Beneath My Wings, I just want to talk about that for a little bit, because I think one thing that's interesting about that song, why the hell they didn't put it out as a single is nuts. Right. Considering she was one of the first people to record it. There's a lot of talk about this, like, since it online. I've seen people talking about this, like, oh, who was the first to record it, and blah blah blah. It's a real it's just like hers wasn't the first to come out. Roger Whittaker's came out first. There was another artist that recorded as well. But what's interesting is when they found the song, when Chris got the song, as far as they were concerned, they were going to sing it as an exclusive. They were recording it. They were the first to record it, and they said they asked for it to be it's in the liner notes, the quote. I can't remember exactly how to put it, but basically they were doing as a an exclusive. And I think that the unwritten rule at the time was like, if you take a song, the publishers and the songwriters don't simultaneously give it to 10 other people, but they did. Give it to, other people did have it to record. So Sheena's wasn't the very first to come out, but the earlier, so the one that I think had a degree of awareness was Roger Whittaker's. It wasn't huge. Sheena did it. Over the years after that, different people recorded, had hits with it. Gladys Knight had a decent sized hit with it. Lou Rawls had a decent sized hit with it. 7 years later, so that's quite a while later, Bette Midler records it for Beaches. Obviously, it becomes an international hit. And now everyone knows it for. But the song itself, the fact that so many people recorded it, the fact that it's so immediate and the lyric is so poignant, and I mean, it's just one of those songs that there's a reason a song becomes a song like that.
100%.
And I think that EMI missed a trick by not realizing that and putting it out, because, it's kind of standard, basically, isn't it?
Yeah. There's a radio interview with her at that time. She talks about how she found that song, and she actually found that song and brought it to Chris Neal.
Right.
She found it in a box of songs. I think she was in EMI, maybe in the UK, and there was a box of songs that were going to Cliff Richard. And,
really?
And that song happened to be playing, and she said in the interview that I think it's online somewhere, she lifted it from the box and brought it to Chris Neal. And then she said in the interview, "Thank you, Cliff." And she said she goes, she doesn't feel bad about it because he would have done the same exact thing to her if he had heard that song. So, and there was also a question a couple of years after that from a fan who said, "Why wasn't that released as a single?" And she said it was being discussed to be released as the third single, because around that time, We've Got Tonight came out and thankfully kept her name in the market. She had a network TV special. She was doing a lot of promo. So she started singing it on Merv Griffin, The Tonight Show, and the record company was considering releasing it as a single. But I think what probably went through their minds is, we can't do another ballad. We have to hold off. Let's get you in the studio and let's get an up-tempo single out there, which I think was smart. I mean, missed opportunity maybe, but it would have been really hard to break a ballad single from her as a third single from an album that already had two singles that didn't reach their potential. So I think they probably just said, let's just move on to the next one.
I mean, there was no point in putting a third single out in Britain. I mean, there's
right, exactly.
Or the US at that point. I mean, maybe they could have built on We've Got Tonight, but it's still even hard to do that.
Sure. I mean, they could maybe have put Wind Beneath My Wings out instead of I Wouldn't Beg for Water.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I mean, that's a great song as well. But and I think she had lots of great ballads at the time. It just feels like it's a classic recording by Sheena that people just don't know.
Yes.
Most people don't know about. And it feels like there's something has gone slightly amiss there in the planning.
Yeah. But it also shows you that she had a knack for hearing. I mean, if you pick that song and you realize this is that shows that you have a sense of what people will respond to emotionally. A good song.
She was ahead of it. Mike, I love Bette Midler's version. I love her take on it, but I even like better than the 82 version, Sheena's live 1989 version of it, because she did it like with an R&B little feel to it. Oh. And the vocals are ridiculous.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You can check that on YouTube. There's a couple of live performances. There's one from, I think, 92 also from Florida. It's amazing. And you're right, it's like an R&B arrangement almost, right?
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So when you're going into this, Adam, like when you're finding these songs in the vault, how badly do you want to go out and just shout to the world and play the songs for them when you're hearing them for the first time? Like Woman, when you hear it and her vocals are like perfection.
Yeah, well, I know. It's kind of like, yeah. I mean, Woman in particular, I think everything I've found so far was the most exciting to find because it was kind of a totally unknown thing that just appeared out of nowhere, seemingly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great to get it finally out there. It's nice to that like the songwriter Sue Quinn, gets to hear it as well, and people like that. So it's very rewarding in that way, finding the unreleased stuff. Yeah, it's fantastic.
No, completely. So we do have another question from, I want to say, Petros, who's been amazing. He's a big Sheena fan.
Yeah.
He's excited for the Madness Money music release, but he wants to know if you're going to be putting your magic touch on Best Kept Secret and No Sound But a Heart.
Well, everything will come out eventually. So all her EMI catalog will be remastered and re-released. We're doing the vinyl releases, the colored vinyl releases, and we're also doing stuff on CD. I think, but not everything will be. There will be a box set at the end with everything. But these standalone deluxe editions, as we call them, the 2-disc ones, are only really going to be done for the ones where there's enough material to do that. So,
Okay.
It's about finding the material. So with Madness Money music, there was a lot of stuff in this era. There was that fantastic TV special, Act 1, the 3 videos, bonus material. So it works perfectly well. What I want to do is like stretch it out and just have we won't do a single disc release for these things. So there needs to be enough material. There isn't enough material for Best Kept Secret, unfortunately, to do that treatment. I mean, there's 2 promotional videos, 3, I suppose, if you put We've Got Tonight on it, which isn't really enough. You can't really warrant doing a DVD for 3 videos. Yes, there are TV appearances and other stuff like that, but that's one matter of finding clearances, and that's not possible. I've tried, so there won't be for this one. For Best Kept Secret, and we'll see what happens with the others. But everything will come out. That can come out. Everything will come out one way or the other.
And we will be seeing a Private Heaven on vinyl. You said, right?
Yes, we will be seeing a Private Heaven on vinyl. Absolutely. At the moment, there's a bit of a question mark whether it will be a single vinyl because it could be a double vinyl.
Right.
So there's enough material for it to be a double vinyl.
Sure.
We're going into the era where there are mixes, and there are also some sort of mixes I found since doing the deluxe version. Some other stuff I found. Which could go on there. Would that other stuff you found make it to the box set?
Will
it make the box set? Might do. I don't know yet. It will come out one way or the other.
Okay.
So it could well do, yeah. So what? Yeah, we'll see.
There's also, I know fans have been asking about the digital releases, but I guess, is there any update on that?
I don't have an update on that. I know at one point we were talking about there possibly being something that hasn't happened. So there's no point in me talking about it. But no, I don't know what's going to happen yet. For the last one...
the only one so far was Live at the Hollywood Palace.
That's right, which came out almost simultaneously.
Oh, and they also did release, probably a year after it came out, the singles.
Eventually came out, didn't it? Early this year, I guess it would have been.
Yeah.
So this really should. There's no reason why it shouldn't. But I'm not in control of that side. I'm not involved in that side of things, the digital stuff. So we'll see. I imagine it will. At some point.
And now the Spanish album, will that be in the box set as well? Or I think we did talk about that.
Yeah, the Spanish album will. Yeah, everything will be in the. All the albums will be included in the box set. All the albums and more. That's a bit of a way away. So it's hard for me to be definitive about what exactly it is because everything has to be cleared. Unreleased material has to be approved by Sheena, so I can't say for sure what will definitely be happening in.
I had a question from Joe M. He was asking about the Spanish album being released as part of this campaign, and also, is there any chance of the Big Time documentary being issued as part of the box set? Thank you. And she said, firstly, thanks to Adam. he said, "Firstly, thanks to Adam and everything at Cherry Records for Madness, Money, and Music. It's a brilliant reissue as usual."
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you. The Big Time, unfortunately, no. That were. I was trying to get that to be on Take My Time Deluxe, actually, at one point, and there were, for various reasons, it couldn't happen. So that one will not happen. No. There is a tiny little excerpt of The Big Time that appears in Act 1. So you can see her feelings for approximately 40 seconds.
And can we talk about Act 1 for a second? Because it's such a special release, and to finally have it on DVD is amazing. It's a classic variety TV special. It's probably one of the last of its kind in the US. They used to make these formatted variety specials throughout the 70s, really, and iconic format of like a little storyline. This one is a particular one where Sheena is walking after taping and something happens, and so she walks around the set of The Tonight Show and brilliantly imitates an American accent as Johnny Carson, interviewing herself, going back and forth from American to Scottish accents, and then vignettes of themed music interludes, including guest stars Al Jarreau and Kenny Rogers, and an appearance by Johnny Carson himself at the end. It's just it's an amazing special. Her performances in it are brilliant, all live, captured live with orchestration and arrangements by Peter Matz, who had done the original Barbra Streisand special. So I'm sure that was a thrill for her. And I think it was directed by the same person as well.
Dwight Hemian, yeah.
Yes, and it won 6 Emmys, or it was nominated for 6 Emmys and won 3 of them. And it's just a really shows someone, again, it's unbelievable to me when I watch that was someone who was unknown 2 years prior. The performances are someone who's like a vet,
polished,
confident, and banging those out. She probably recorded that literally within a few days, I'm sure. And it's a great TV special. It's a little campy at times, but fun. And after that, the TV specials by music artists were really just people getting up and singing together. There really wasn't that format of trying to inject some comedy in and some little bits. Yeah. And she pulls it off just on everything she does. She does a little girl group thing where she takes on the character roles of the, stereotypical girl group personalities, and she does that brilliantly. It's it really is a tour de force performance.
The opener alone is just incredible. The Song for You, and it just gave me Streisand from the first time I heard it. The belting, the confidence, she owned it. She owned that song outright.
What she does is very unusual, which would never happen today, because I think would tie in and be thought through as a kind of product. Is that she's doing songs as they would in the TV specials you refer to, like of the 70s and 60s, songs that weren't from a current album. She's doing a cover version of The Song for You. She's doing He's a Rebel.
Out Here on My Own, The Entertainer.
Another one.
Yeah, great performance. She does a Billy Joel song. She does
The Entertainer. Yeah.
So she does this really sort of another wide range thing. She's doing rock. She's singing kind of jazzy kind of ballad, Last Night at Danceland with all these different things and pulling them all off. Some of the outfits are a little bit dubious, possibly, one might say. Looking at it through our contemporary eyes, it's like, okay, maybe too many thrills there.
Yeah. But, the blue spandex pants, you didn't like those?
But it's great. It's great to have it as a fan of her voice. I mean, you have to listen to this, because it's like she's doing these other songs that you would never hear otherwise.
Yeah, and we thank you, Adam, because I've been waiting for this to come out for years, like high quality. So I'm so excited for it.
Yeah, it was quite difficult to get that from that side of things. It was took quite a bit of work to get the best quality possible, because of course it was filmed on video,
right?
So it wasn't filmed on film, so there's only a certain
level of quality you can get to with that.
Yeah.
But just a little side note, Peter Matz produced Barbara's first 3 albums before she branched off on her 4th one. Do I see a comparison with Sheena?
So Peter Matz did the first 3 Barbara albums. I didn't actually know if I knew that. I knew he had done a lot of stuff with her. I didn't know the actual.
Yeah, and he did that as well. Yeah, he did her first couple specials.
I wonder if Sheena actually specifically requested them. I would be surprised if he did.
I would love to know that.
I'm certain that this was all upon her request. I mean, there's just too many things. Even the song selections, those are all artists that she noted that she loved. And so I'm sure that she was, which again, someone at the age of 23 with the pressure of doing a network TV special would probably give over a lot of those decisions to someone else just because of the pressure of like, I want to make sure I get this right. But this was, I'm sure, listen, these were all very creative people that had input without no doubt, but she picked them, and I'm certain that she picked the song list. And, it just shows you that she was, a lot of people have this misconception about pop, especially female pop vocalists, that they're just like puppets of producers and and managers, and that was not who this person was. She was having input in every single aspect of her career.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm really like when I spoke to her musical director Jeff Carpenter. He talked about how she would be. She would get when they went to rehearsals for the tour. She would arrive before the band, and she would have opinions on, and which some people I think rubbed some people off the wrong way, especially that time when there was the men in the band were used to doing it a certain way, and they weren't expecting the girl singer to have an opinion. Exactly. What are you talking about? But she did have opinions. She did have a voice, which probably, which wasn't difficult. Was probably maybe a bit difficult with their egos at the time. Sometimes that's the impression I got anyway. But it's because she knew what she wanted. She had a real musical ear, and she had that talent. And of course, and it's hard. I think it still is hard now. It would have been even harder then, as a young woman in an industry run by men who are a lot older, to make your voice heard. But she did. Yeah,
she did a great job at it.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that with Act 1, it's fantastic. Like Now It's Money Music. But I think in the same way, it was just, as we were talking then, I was thinking, she's working with Peter Matz, who was somebody who had been working with Barbra Streisand 20 years earlier, basically.
Yeah.
So there was a sense in which, as accomplished and polished as this was, it was out of step with, which is what they corrected on the next project.
Yes.
It was like she was.
Even you're right. You're 100% right. Even the variety format that they used for this was, it was dated. It was there was a reason why it was one of the last TV specials that had this format, and this was a presentation of an artist for adults. I remember my friend's mother watching the TV special and loving Sheena Easton after that, and then she wanted me to tape the next album, and she was a little disappointed because it was more, like pop rock stuff. And so she was expecting that singer that she saw on the TV special to sing like, these arrangements by Peter Matz and familiar songs. And it was more, a little more rocky. So.
Yes. And so that's, exactly. So her doing Out Here on My Own or whatever, or Wind Beneath the Wings isn't going to get her onto heavy rotation onto MTV.
Right.
But Telephone is. So,
right.
Commercial versus artistic, or sometimes both. I'm not saying like what you have to sacrifice one for the other, but there's that constant balance that is being.
But what an uphill climb after Man Is Money Music, Best Kept Secret, then A Private Heaven, and just kept going up.
Yes, and worked with the better, and she always worked with such great people. She really did.
Yeah. So we have to close up the whole Sheena discussion. We have one more question from Nikki, who says, it's a little disappointing that Sheena has not done anything to promote the re-release campaign. It would be great to see her sing 1 or 2 of the unreleased songs at her shows.
Yeah, I guess it would be. I mean, I think that would be quite a. I don't know. She has her own band and they're doing their own things. I don't know whether she'd want to kind of. Maybe she would. I don't know. I don't know.
I would love to hear her sing "Woman."
Yeah, it'd be great to hear her sing it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. You know, I can imagine that at this point, when you get to this point in your career, it's probably hard to like balance that what your fans want to what you have to do for just to sustain gigs with people that are coming in that are not familiar with your album tracks.
Yeah,
so
I mean, there are
people. A lot of her.
There are at least 7 or 8 songs that she has to do.
Yeah, and then she does like covers of songs that people are familiar with, that she knows the audience that's coming to see her. Because, you know, we've all been to those concerts where artists do maybe their new album that you don't know one song from, and it's just awful to be at the mercy of what they want themselves to do. It's a balance. I did remember that, I think it was during a question and answer or something recently where she did promote the Live at the Hollywood Palace release, that's unusual. That's usually never mentions anything about upcoming things, but she must have been excited about it because she did say that they were going to release the DVD and CD of that. So
that's good.
Yeah, so maybe in her next letter to the fans, she'll say something about it.
Yeah. We'll have to wait and see. Yeah.
We need to. We're going to do an interview with her. We're going to bring you on, Adam. Surprise guest.
That would be fun.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go probably see her next year. I got to take the time out. She was 2 times. She was over right by me, and I was out of state traveling with my show. She was in Pennsylvania, and then she was in Connecticut.
Oh, what a shame.
Yeah, like 2 weeks ago.
You know what? I was going to ask you, like, so on the album, we mentioned it before, when it was released in America, it was released as 10 tracks. So 2 songs were taken off.
Yeah.
Do you think those 2 songs were "Please Don't Sympathize" and "I Don't Need Your Word"? Do you think those songs? What do you think about that? Do you think they
Please Don't Sympathize was my least favorite of all of these songs that were recorded.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it just never. I like her performance. I think I like some parts of it, but it really was just like a little boring to me. But "I Don't Need Your Word" is amazing.
I love that song.
Yeah, it's such a good ballad. And that I remember it was on the B side, I think was it Almost Over You, Ike?
B side, Almost Over You. Wish You Here Tonight was Telephone. Or no?
Yeah. Right. I think it was the B side of Almost Over You, and that's when I first heard it here.
Yeah.
And I was just amazed by it. I knew it had to be an outtake because I saw that Christopher Neal had produced it. But, again, that was, killer. And I would have left that on. In fact, I would have left that on the album, the U.S. version, and I would have had that and "Woman" on the U.S. version, and I would have kept "Are You Man Enough" and "In the Winter" off.
Oh, okay.
I would have put on "So We Say Goodbye."
Another great.
No, we didn't talk about "So We Say." Yeah, I mean, "So We Say Goodbye" should have been the last track on the album.
Exactly. Right. And a good closer for her tour.
Yeah.
And you know what? I have to say, I remember it had to be 10 years ago. She did a few concerts in Japan. And do you know, they said she did "Loner."
What?
Really?
Yeah. Which was so unusual. And I was waiting to see if she did it in the U.S. and she didn't. But she did "Loner" when she was over in Japan.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, the quality of the material that she was doing with Chris Neal is so high. I mean, those songs, those B-sides like "Loner" and, they're just fantastic. "So We Say Goodbye." They're just such great songs.
Yeah, they were incredible. And it's the performance, too. Not, the lyrics, the production, but her voice.
Her performance, absolutely.
Right? Clear. Her vocals were up front.
Yeah. One of the ones we didn't talk about, just if we've got time to quickly talk about, and it was a single in some countries, is "Ice Out in the Rain."
Oh,
And there was a video shot for it, which is on here as well.
yeah.
And that's an interesting one because it was the remix is on here. Quite a few years later, at the end of the 80s, it was remixed for a greatest hits package in Britain. It was a completely different production, which really made it sound very contemporary. But I think that's quite an interesting song. I personally think the remix vastly improved it.
That's a missed opportunity right there, because that song was really modern. It was, for that time, it was really good.
And that video, she just looks so beautiful in that video. That was like the first video that you saw it, right, Adam? The video Ice Out in the Rain?
Yeah.
It's on the DVD, right?
Yeah.
So that was the first time where I think they really just focused on her face, like just how beautiful she was, and they did the different lighting, and it's a great video. But you know, the production of it, I prefer the original production. I like the remix as well. I think it kind of was going after that Mike and Mechanics kind of sound that was hit on the radio at that time. But the original production arrangement, to me, what, say that again?
When you mentioned Mike and the Mechanics, it kind of throws me and makes me think I don't like it anymore.
Yeah, well, Chris Neal was producing them, so he produced. Yeah, All I Need Is a Miracle, and like Can You Hear Me, the Silent Running song. Yeah, so there was something about that reminded me of that era. But the original Ice Out in the Rain production and arrangement, to me, sounded very similar to Dreams by Fleetwood Mac.
Oh yeah.
If you listen to those songs back to back, there's something rhythmically that's very similar. And but the song is brilliant, her performance is brilliant. I love Chris Neal, just him and Sheena singing the chorus together with his harmony. That's what I miss off the remix. Is hearing them blend together.
But great track.
Peter Vale, one of the co-writers on it, said that they were going for a kind of you mentioned Kim Carnes earlier, Betty Davis Eyes kind of feel for that song. That's where Gary Newman, that's where their heads are at, although the production on the original production doesn't really take it as far in that direction as the remix does. But it's interesting because it makes you realize how much the production can change.
Oh yeah.
The song.
I would have picked that as the first single too, over Machinery.
Could have been.
Yeah, that could have been a single.
Polished, and the video was great. Yeah,
everything was amazing. It's interesting they spent the money to shoot a quite expensive video. That was Steve Barron that did that video.
Yeah,
wow.
Who later did Billie Jean.
Yeah, where it was released somewhere, but do you remember where it was released as a single?
I think it's Norway. I think it was Norway it was released.
Something else.
Like, why would you shoot a video for a song that's just released in one? Unless at one point it was being considered it was going to be. I don't know.
Yeah,
it must have been. It couldn't have just been for that. There must have been a change of plan, I guess, at some point.
So tell us, Adam, outside of Sheena, what have you got in the works?
There are a few other things in the works. Unfortunately, I can't talk about any of them at the moment because they haven't all been signed off.
So what if I told you to stop recording?
Don't believe him. Don't believe him.
Well,
so they could, yeah. So they like until they're 100% signed off. There's no point in me saying because something like horribly wrong and then it won't happen. Then
you don't have to. I'm only kidding. But the Weather Girls, I still love that box set. It's amazing.
Oh, great! Yes, it's good. Yeah. It's very good, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
And Beverly Craven, who I did.
Beverly Craven, yeah.
She's doing a show in a month or two in the UK, which is quite exciting.
Nice.
With another singer called Judy Zook. She's doing a tour basically. That's exciting. But yeah, there will be more things I'm doing outside of the Sheena. But the Sheena stuff is keeping me pretty busy, to be honest.
Okay, so tell everybody what's coming up with that then, and when can we expect you back?
Well, the next release after Mad Spelling Music will be the remastered vinyl of Best Kept Secret.
Okay.
Which I imagine, if it goes well, which should come out in December.
Okay.
It's hard to say for sure this exact moment because, as we've discussed before, the pressing plant lead times for vinyl is quite takes a while. But if it all goes according to plan, it'll be out in December. Yeah.
And then the final box set, maybe next year, or
yeah, probably.
Yeah,
probably towards the end of next year.
Okay,
I would imagine, because there's more individual releases to come before that.
This is becoming the Adam Mattera show.
That's right, and we love it.
Yeah,
wearing out my invitation.
No, please. Yeah, and now Record Store Day, that's coming up again, right?
April of next year? Yeah.
It's coming out April next year. I'm not 100% sure what's happening with that at the moment. It's all a bit TBC as well. Sorry, I can't be more.
But you're planning something.
There are plans. There's constant plans. Yeah, things. But those plans involve many people and people approving stuff and signing stuff off. So, hence why I can't really.
Yeah. No. You come back in December. You tell us a little bit more.
What do we know? Yeah.
Come back. You have some tea with us.
That'd be
That's
great.
Right.
Adam, thank you so much for coming on again, as always.
Thank you.
Madness, Money, and Music released yesterday?
Yesterday, yeah.
Yesterday. Tell everybody where they can find it, Adam, and the CD, DVD, as well as the vinyl.
Well, you should be able to get it like at Amazon and all those like major. It's available on there. It also, you can get it direct from Cherry Red Records, which is cherryredrecords.co.uk, I think.
So we'll put all the links right in when it's released. Yep, everything will be in there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Adam. You are amazing. I'm telling you, you make
brilliant job once again, Adam. Really, you
make this 21-year-old boy very happy.
That's right. You're making Sheena Easton fanboys very happy.
Thank you. Yeah, of course. This I think is the best one so far.
Oh,
I agree.
Yeah, one of my favorites.
I think the amount of extra material, managing to get hold of virtually every single writer for the liner notes.
Yeah, the liner notes are just incredible. I seriously, I think you just did such a great job of capturing their creative process and what it was like to be recording this really classic album. It's a classic pop album of the 80s. You know, it should be regarded as one of the best albums of the 80s.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Really,
and we want to give a shout out to all the Sheena Easton fans too, because they love when you're putting out all this stuff for them. They send questions in. They're excited every time you come on. So we appreciate that so much.
Great. Well, yeah. And thank you to everyone that's been supporting it, and there'll be more to come. So yeah, thank you.
Oh, well, this is where we wave goodbye. Bye, Adam.
Bye.